My name is Frank Hynes, and I run a company called JobChanger. And basically, the topic I'm going to talk about, Okay, it's what to do if you're in a job you hate and you cannot afford to quit. Now, maybe it's that not necessarily you can't afford to quit, but maybe for all sorts of reasons you feel trapped and you feel that you can't just leave. You can't just walk away for one reason or another. Maybe people around you put you under pressure to stay there, your family, etc. Maybe you feel committed to look after, provide for your family, etc. But I want to look at 6 strategies that you can do to implement immediately, with the bottom part of it while you're planning your exit strategy. And I really believe we should be looking at more of our planning our exit strategy. Just for anybody, for who might be interested in this, anybody who's really somewhat unhappy in your job, maybe thinking even slightly of changing careers, planning on returning to work, or if you're in a job literally that you hate and you feel trapped, you feel you cannot leave. Just a little bit about myself before I go any further. I'm Frank Hynes. I spent 28 years working in the public sector. I suppose it was a comfortable job. Everybody told me I was mad to leave, with prospects of a good pension, etc., coming up in some years down the line. But yet there were a lot of things that I was not happy about. I was one of these people who might go to work on a Monday morning and spent all week, waiting for the weekend, and spent all weekend dreading going back to work on a Monday. And I wonder how many people are in that situation here in this room. And the reality is that there's of the order of 80 to 85% of people are not happy in their work, with half of those literally hating what they do. And that's shown in several surveys all over the world. It's actually also shown up in a number of surveys that I actually did when I set up this business a number of years ago. So I eventually took the leap and decided to change. Now, I suppose I was 6 or 7 years working on trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And the reality is, there's all sorts of career coaches and all sorts of advice you can get out there. But it's actually I found it very difficult to find somebody who would actually help me figure out what I actually wanted to do. I had no problem getting people to help me land another job. If I saw a job, there were people who would help me prepare for interview, there were people who help me, get the application together, etc. There was loads of help in that area. But trying to figure out the steps in between was the problem. And that's where I believe that you need to spend a bit of time, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a few moments. So basically I'm going to move on to the six strategies first. And the first strategy I would say is, can you connect what you do? Can you connect your work to the service of other people? And the question I would ask you to ask of yourself is, who do you serve by your existing job? Now, if you look at a doctor or a nurse, it's very, very obvious that those people are serving their patients. They're nurturing their patients back to full health and or if it's at the end of life, help them live out their final days in some sort of comfort. So you can easily identify who they are of service to. But even for those doctors and nurses, when they come under pressure, and there's a lot of pressure on the health service at the moment, it's very, very easy for those people to lose track of who they actually serve, because they're under pressure with long hours, under pressure for administration, etc. Similarly, if we look at teachers again might be very easy to see that a teacher is of service to the children, and there can be great satisfaction in watching the children even go from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, and how to see how the children mature. But even further than that, look at them as they grow into mature adults, as they leave school and they move on. And as a teacher, to look back, you can get great satisfaction. But again, with the pressures of work, you can very easily lose sight of that. But even in what might seem to be a very undesirable job, for example, and maybe not necessarily an undesirable job, it might be sometimes difficult to identify who you're of service. If you're working on a factory floor on the line, it might be very easy to see that I'm actually just literally putting screws in a machine or something. I'm actually doing something that might seem very, very difficult to connect. But there could be 2 people, we'll say, working in a medical firm, making the same products, maybe contributing to making ventilators. And one person says, I'm actually making ventilators to save people's lives, whereas another person says, I'm on the line. And there's a total different way you look at the job. So if you can start to look at your job as who do you actually serve, it actually can make the job much more meaningful for you, until such time as you find something better. Second one, sorry, where am I? Maybe, oh yeah, sorry. It'll take me a bit to get used to the clicker here. Second question I would ask you is, can you remember why you work? And I regularly, and I've done it at events like this, and I've asked people who are at the beginning of the talk, is why do you go to work at all? And I've asked you, why do you go to work at all? Probably the first thing that comes into most people's minds is so that I can make money. And what do you want money for? I want to pay the bills. That can make it very, very difficult. You want to pay the bills, but why do you want to pay the bills? Maybe you want to pay the mortgage, but why do you want a mortgage? Because I want the mortgage so that I can have a house for my family. I can provide for my family. So the real reason you're working is actually to provide for your family, to provide for your loved ones, care for those people that you do care about, to provide education for them. So rather than saying to pay the bills, look at ultimately what you really want those. And that can actually make the suffering and that make it a little bit more bearable. It make life a little bit more comfortable for yourself. Third one is, can you bring about some changes in your workplace? Here I'm talking about maybe there's a bit of a dispute going on, and maybe your boss isn't even aware about it. Maybe you can have a quick chat with your boss and see, can you find some sort of a solution for this dispute? Maybe there's a young work colleague that needs a little bit of support and mentoring, and maybe you can provide that, and it makes going to work a little bit more meaningful for you, and you're actually then helping somebody else as well. Or maybe all you need to do is literally to get away from the stress of being in front of a desk all day and get out for a walk. Take a walk rather than going for coffee. Maybe take a break. Or maybe drop into one of your colleagues and ask them to go for a coffee with you. There are little things you can do that you can actually start immediately that make life a little bit more meaningful for yourself at work. So those first three are really looking at what you can do at work. So if I move on to looking at something outside of work, maybe you should look after a little bit more, taking care of your own physical health. Here I'm talking about, do you take exercise? Do you eat properly? Have you a balanced diet? Do you get adequate sleep? Do you take plenty of water? I was reading something the other day that the average male needs of the order of 3.7 litres of liquid a day. That's 6.5 pints. And the average woman needs something like 4.5 or 5 pints of water or liquid a day. How many of us actually drink that? And yet, when I do come across people who actually take a lot of water, they will say immediately how much they have noticed it helps them. So, are you doing things like that, taking care of your physical health? Second one outside is focus on other areas outside of work. Do you look after the people, the relationships that are important to you? Do you spend time with your loved ones and a family? Do you spend time with your friends? Do you give yourself time for a hobby? So those are all things you can do, and you can do those really. As you walk out of here, you can start focusing on those things. And they can make life a little bit better for yourself. And that brings me on to strategy number 6, which is really about deciding to face your career problems. Now, I see thousands of people walking in here today. Like yourselves, I wonder, are you thinking about changing jobs? But have you really given yourself a full commitment to finding what is right for you? Because I find most people, what they will do is they're maybe unhappy in their current situation for whatever reason. They decide they want to make a change. They come to a place like here and search the jobs market and see, are there jobs available that I could do? And if they do, then they'll apply for them in the hopes that they will find something better. But there's a whole range of work, in my opinion, that needs to be done in between. It's figuring out what is it that drives you. What is it that drives you? Because I believe there are 4 key steps in any career change or in any career development. The first one is you must make that commitment to yourself. You must make that commitment to yourself that for once and for all, I am going to figure out what is right for me. I mentioned earlier that there's something like 85% of people are not happy. That means there are about 15% of people are happy. Why can't you be one of those 15? Why can't you be happy in what you're doing? I can safely say, since I actually set up my own business, and I'm doing a few different things, it's actually much more what I'm not in the situation now where I'm dying for the weekend. In actual fact, the week isn't long enough for me to get the work that I want to do done. And, I often used to think that was kind of it's a bit pie in the sky people talking about, if you find a job that you love, you'll never work another day in your life. I won't say that you won't ever work another day in your life, but if you can enjoy what you're doing, it makes a huge, huge difference. It can make a huge, huge difference. So I would say make the commitment to yourself. From today, I'm going to start making things right. And I'm talking about a full commitment. Spend time figuring out what you want to do. Figuring out what is it actually that drives you. What are the things that motivate you. Figure out where then you can find that. And whether, for me, when I got to that point, I was considering other jobs, and I eventually realised I wasn't going to find that job, so I was going to set up my own business. But for others, it will be a situation of what company and what type of companies and what country you can find that job. And finally make the move, which is what most people start with. They go from number 1 to number 4 and wonder why it doesn't work out. Can I ask a question, and maybe for a quick show of hands? Has anybody here thought about changing jobs in, say, in the last 6 months? Okay. Has anybody felt like I have mentioned earlier, you're working all week and dying for the weekend to come round? Anybody feel like that? Okay, it's common enough again. Question is, have you done anything about it? Have you done anything to make changes? I met people at this event last year, and I actually, just maybe while this prompts me, there's a couple of charts going around there if people want to drop their name and contact details. I have an e-book that covers basically, it goes into detail of the stuff that I spoke about, and I can give it. I can send you the link for it if you're interested. But I met people at this event last year, and I contacted them only recently because I was at a lot of other things. I contacted them only recently. And I got replies from some of those people that they have absolutely done nothing about their career change since then, even though they were talking about making changes at that stage. And I'm wondering, how many years down the line are you going to be before you actually make some serious efforts about finding? And I'm not talking about just finding a change of career or finding a change of jobs. I'm talking about finding the job that really drives and inspires you. I ask a question. Who do you think is stopping you from making changes? Yourself, yeah. Absolutely, 100%. And the answer really, what can you do to overcome that? Make the move, make the decision to move. The problem is, and you're right, the problem is it can be difficult to make those decisions. And I'm going to say to you, is do not go this journey alone, because it is a huge journey. It is a big journey. And find people who are around you who will support you in this. Or find help. Okay, that is some of the work I do, but I'm not, and come and talk to me if you are serious about making changes and serious about trying to figure out what you want to do. Come and talk to me. I've no problem in doing that. And, okay, Steve Jobs said the only way to do great work is to love what you do. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking and don't settle. This is something I've actually probably had, and Stephen probably can verify this because he's at the camera of most of these talks that I give. Over the last couple of years, I have probably had that on most of my talks, because I really believe we shouldn't settle for something where we're not happy. I am, for anybody who is seriously about looking at career change, I do a free career discovery call where I do a one-to-one call with you, if you're interested, where I will basically, I want to help you on that call. This is a free call to create a clear vision for ultimate success in your career and your life, trying to help you figure out what you want. I want to help you to uncover the challenges that are keeping you stuck in a job where you're not happy. And I would like you to leave the session, if we have such a session, focused and re-energized and inspired with a plan to get your career going in the right direction for once and for all. That's a call. If you are serious about making change careers, you're free to check that out. I have a website, frankhynescoaching.com. On that, there's a link to more information about that particular call. I encourage you and I invite you to go and check that out. If it's of interest to you, then you'll have an opportunity to go ahead and book a call with me. There's also, I haven't a link up there, I mentioned a link, but if you look at JobChanger.ie, there's a link at the beginning of that also for an ebook which covers the material that I spoke about here today. But ladies and gentlemen, I would really encourage you, if things are not going right in your career, this life is too short to be stuck in an unhappy job. You owe it to yourself. And ask yourself, are you prepared to put in the effort? Thank you.